What's up guys, and welcome to my release Himeko Nova guide. In this video, I'm taking you over everything you do need to know in order to understand and build her, including a full kit overview, best Lightcones, best Relic sets, and Planar Ornaments, the main stats you want to run and substats to aim for in what scenarios, and also general team building at the very end. However, you guys really need to see this cool thing I got. You know how Yao Guang's peacock design is one of the most beautiful aesthetics in Honkai Star Rail? Well, Ugreen literally turned it into a charging kit. I just got the limited Ugreen and Honkai Star Rail collectible gift box, and the entire thing is inspired by Yao Guang's iconic peacock elements. Inside, you get the Ugreen magnetic power bank, the Ugreen 65-watt charger, and Fine Track, the retractable cable, all featuring exclusive Yao Guang inspired designs. And for collectors, there's also an acrylic stand, tin badge, and a holographic ticket, and also an exclusive pouch that comes only with this gift box. The magnetic power bank is ultra slim, supports Qi 2 15-watt wireless charging, and packs a 10,000 mAh battery that can charge an iPhone around 2 times. The Ugreen 65-watt charger is pocket-sized, features a foldable plug, and is easy to bring anywhere. And everything fits neatly into the included pouch, with Fine Track attached in case you ever misplace it. If you need some more power, there's also a Ugreen Nexus Pro power bank with a 45-watt output, a smart display, and enough power to charge 3 devices at the same time. If you're a Yao Guang fan, this is basically the ultimate Honkai Star Rail themed fast charging power-up kit. Check out the Ugreen and Honkai Star Rail series through the links in the description and pinned comment for a chance to win a gold collectible. Himeko Nova's basic attack does fire damage based off her attack to a designated enemy. Her skill regains all assist skill uses and gives Himeko Nova Navigator Sephimore for 3 turns, with the duration decreasing by 1 at the start of Himeko's turn. While Himeko has Navigator Sephimore, damage dealt by the team increases by 20%, and at the start of every turn, immediately regains 1 assist skill use. Her ultimate takes control of Starblazer and lets her launch Hyperluminal Particle Beam against the enemy 6 times, or consume source energy to launch Orbital Annihilation Pulse. This does fire damage up to 762% of Himeko Nova's attack to one enemy, and fire damage equal to 252% of Himeko's attack to other targets. Using all uses of a Particle Beam, Orbital Annihilation Pulse will automatically be launched, followed by a final hit that does 3 instances of damage, each doing fire damage equal to 80% of Himeko's attack to a random enemy. If either attack does fatal damage to all enemies on the field, or when enemies' HP can no longer be reduced, final hit will immediately launch. Hyperluminal Particle Beam will do fire damage equal to 32% of Himeko's attack to all enemies, gain a source energy holding up to a maximum of 3. Orbital Annihilation Pulse will consume a source energy to do fire damage equal to 20% of Himeko's attack to all enemies. Having more than 1 point of source energy, each subsequent point of source energy being consumed will do an additional instance of fire damage equal to 30% of Himeko Nova's attack to a random enemy. Her talent deploys her territory when Himeko is on the field, causing Starblazer to appear and granting everyone an assist skill usage. Using assist skill is considered as Himeko Nova using her skill. Himeko Nova gains a all-type res pen increase by 20% and 80% crit damage increase. Attacks can ignore weakness types to reduce enemy targets' weakness, and allied characters other than Himeko Nova using an assist skill will regenerate 4 energy. Her technique increases the team's max technique points by 3, consumes 2 points when used to enter cruise for 30 seconds, while in cruise immediately attacks all enemies. At the start of each wave, automatically uses skill once. Normal enemies hit by the technique will instantly be defeated, and no technique points are consumed if no enemies are hit. Now we finally get to the assist skill portion of her kit. So the assist skills do damage equal to 160% of Himeko's attack as fire damage to all enemies, and then 3 bonus hits that each do 24% attack as fire damage to a random enemy. Himeko Nova specifically using it will make it 200% attack as fire damage to all enemies, and have 4 bonus hits that each do damage equal to 32% of Himeko's attack as fire damage to all random enemy. If a Trailblaze companion character uses the assist skill, Himeko Nova will gain a special effect based on the user. Special effects can trigger an extra assist skill up to 2 times per battle, with the count resetting after Himeko Nova uses her ultimate. So these states are called Companion Protocol Verdict and Companion Protocol Decimation. As I mentioned, you have to be a Trailblaze Companion member to activate this effect, and it changes depending on who it is. Trailblaze Companions feature any form of the Trailblazer, any form of Himeko, any form of March, Danheng, Welt, and Sunday. The ones who activate the Verdict state are Trailblazer, Sunday, and Danheng. The ones activating Decimation are Himeko, March, and Welt. Entering the Verdict state will increase damage dealt by Himeko Nova by 100%, and additionally increase ultimate damage by 100%. Himeko Nova's teammates using their ultimate 2 times will make Himeko Himeko Nova launch the assist skill against the enemy at no cost. For Decimation, on the other hand, it will increase all allies crit damage by 100% and additionally increase crit damage dealt by skills by 100%, gains 1 point of charge for each enemy target that is hit by an ally, reaching 9 points will consume all charge, and Himeko Nova will launch the assist skill against the enemy at no cost. The instance of assist skill cannot gain charge. Finally, for her bonus traces, her A2 lets Himeko Nova herself use her assist skill without consuming assist skill uses, and if current assist skill uses equal the current maximum limit at the start of the turn, Himeko Nova will regenerate 5 energy. Her A4 allows Trailblaze companion characters other than Himeko Nova to gain an extra turn when they use the assist skill, to which they can also use their ultimate. An extra turn gained from an assist skill will not repeatedly trigger the effect, so if they fall under the Trailblaze companions that we did talk about earlier, they can gain an extra turn. And her A6 gives Himeko 3 points of source energy immediately when using ultimate, having 3 or more source energy when using orbital annihilation pulse attack. Damage multiplier of the annihilation pulse against a random single enemy will be increased by 30%. And for her Eidolons, so her E1 increases the talent, triggers the extra assist skill effect by 1, and reduces the total amount of points or charge you will need for the Verdict and Decimation state bonuses. Verdict will now require 1 total ultimate to launch the extra assist skill, and the Decimation state will require a total of 6 charges. So the Verdict state gets lowered by 1 for the ultimates required, and the charge from Decimation has its upper limit reduced by 3, going from 9 to 6. So 6 enemies would have to be hit. Himeko Nova launching an assist skill, the number of extra damage effects triggered is increased by 1 as well. Her E2 increases the max uses of Himeko Nova's assist skill to 2, and also makes ultimate and assist skill damage become 130% of their original value. While Himeko has Navigator set for more state, each turn will immediately recover an extra assist skill use, and her A4 now will be able to give the extra turn effect to non-Trailblaze companion members. Her E4 gives the all-type res pen effect to the entire team from her talent when assist skill is used, and for Himeko herself, she gets an additional 10% all-type res pen. Her E6 increases Himeko Nova's fire res pen by 20%, increases max source energy to 6. Allies using or triggering an assist skill will make the assist skill damage increase by 75%, and Himeko will also gain a source energy. Launching Hyperluminal Particle Beam attack during ultimate additionally will give an extra source energy, and using Annihilation Pulse if current source energy is a total of 6 or more. Additionally, will do fire damage equal to 160% of Himeko Nova's attack to all enemies at one time. For Himeko's best Lightcones, her best one is going to be her own signature, providing the way to 32% defense ignore when dealing damage, where using an assist skill will regenerate 6 energy and gain sail for 2 turns that stack up to 3 times. Each stack increase assist skill damage by 20%, and reaching 3 stacks will make each stack increase ultimate damage by 20% as well. 32% defense ignore is massive on its own. This especially helps with certain team comps to easily achieve 100% defense shred/ignore, which is a universal massive increase in damage. Even if you're not inherently reaching the 100% margin, if this is pushing you up to like the 70s or 80s, that's when it does get a very, very big increase in damage you are doing. And in general, it's going to be an increase regardless. So the 32% defense ignore just for free like that is really good. Extra energy is really good to get her ultimate as well. So there's also that. And now you can also get up to 60% assist skill damage. And once you reach that, you also get 60% ultimate damage. This Lightcone is very stacked with everything it provides, and nothing else really compares to it. If you look at a TLDR, 6 energy, 32% defense ignore, 60% assist skill damage, and 60% ultimate damage, while having solid base attack for, you know, the attack scaler in this case. Far and best one is our own signature. Next best option would be the Herda signature with 12% crit rate. Using ultimate increases skill and ultimate damage by 60% for 3 turns, and if ultimate energy consumes 140 or more energy, 1 skill point is recovered. The crit rate increase makes her easier to build, as you do want to balance a healthy crit ratio and get 100% crit rate on your build, so this does make that easier. And this also provides 60% skill and ultimate damage, which is going to be good for her forms of damage, as these are the focus. So similar to the signature in that sense, but this provides a crit rate instead of the defense ignore, and also doesn't provide energy. So it's a bit different in that aspect. Instead, it gives you a skill point, which on some teams can actually definitely help if you don't have someone really generating and you want people to constantly use skills such as Welt. That can actually add up pretty well. Since Himeko's energy cost is 150, she is able to get the effect. So the next best option you can use is Himeko's signature. You can also use Night on the Milky Way with 9% attack per enemy on the field up to 5, and doing weakness break or just inflicting an enemy with weakness break when they are inflicted with one, 30% damage dealt increase. So 45% attack if there are 5 enemies. The performance of this will drop, of course, with the less enemies on the field, and also can drop more when it comes to not having the damage percent part up, but that part shouldn't necessarily be that difficult. This one is more recommended in pure fiction, since there will always be 5 enemies on the field, and dealing toughness, or breaking an enemy's weakness, I mean, is a lot easier. But in cases where you are able to have most of the effect up, do keep that in mind that this is one of the best options. Plus, since it is standard and been in the game since launch, there's a chance you do have some refinements on it, so that can further increase the performance. Anox's Lightcone actually is situationally good, with 10 energy at the start of the wearer's turn, and 12% defense shred when an enemy target gets attacked by the wearer. Unfortunately, she can't implant a weakness, so this part is not usable, so the damage percent here is worthless. It's 10 energy, which can help you get closer to ult, and also 12% defense shred, which, as I mentioned with the signature, a lot of ways to stack it, and this can help with that. So if you just happen to have a spare Anoxa Lightcone laying around, you can very much use this on her. The Battle Pass Lightcone, Today is Another Peaceful Day, also does work, increasing the wearer's damage based off max energy, 0.20% each point of energy up to 160. And at S5, it's 0.40. She doesn't make use of the full effect as she has 150 energy, but you're still getting a free damage increase for practically almost the entire effect. Hence why this is also usable and does apply to her ultimate damage, applies to the skill damage, so on and so forth. Those are mainly the actual usable options. The other ones are kind of like a lot worse and or just have weird uptime. One of them is Genius's Repose, with a 16% attack increase and a 24% crit damage increase for 3 turns when defeating an enemy. And it has to be aware who defeats it at S5, 32% and 48%. You really want to actually have the effect active or the performance of this drops significantly. With how Himeko does work, this shouldn't always inherently be a problem, plus 3 turns is a lot of turns, so you can actually keep this up quite well. But do note, if you don't have the effect up, the performance of this Lightcone is much worse. And if you really need a free-to-play option, The Day the Cosmos Fell also does work. 16% attack. Attacking 2 enemies that have corresponding weakness will increase wearer's crit damage by 20% for 2 turns. S5, 24% and 40%. This is a lot more situational, less attack than Genius Propose, and less crit damage, and a lot more restrictive, to be honest, because you do need them to have 2 fire weaknesses on the field. But if you really need a free-to-play option, as you have none of the other options available for some reason, then you can just use this. For Himeko Nova's best relic sets, her best in slot above all else is going to be 4-piece Navigator. 2-piece provides 12% attack, with the 4-piece providing 18% skill and ultimate damage when the wearer enters combat or uses a skill that stacks up to 3 times, and using ultimate or after the wearer's turn starts removes 1 stack of the effect. As an attack skiller, all sources from the 2-piece will be buffing her damage, since she does do exactly that, skills off attack. And the uptime of the 4-piece is extremely easy with Himeko, thanks to the fact that the assist skills do count. So every time you use an assist skill, you gain a stack, so it's very easy to keep full uptime on this, gaining a total of up to 54% damage for skill and ultimate, which is really good for a 4-piece. So to seek the best possible results and the best damage you possibly can, 4-piece Navigator is going to be by far your best option in really any scenario. Depending on the team, you can also run Wave Strider, which does provide crit damage from the 2-piece of 16%. 4-piece is able to provide up to a 48% attack increase for a turn, as long as you have the 2 help stacks, which you get by an ally targeting you. So in this case, you would need someone on the team to target her. This could be the sustain, this could be a buffer. This changes depending on team to team, because some teams you might have something like Mortan Exploit plus Welt. Last Saw might have someone that can target that's slower like RMC, so you can't exactly get enough things quickly there. However, on different comps, you might have Sparkle, you might have Sunday. Higher investment, you might have Cerebra, and then your sustains, it would be either Permanent Terre, so he can target. You can have Ho-Ho who can target. So this is a very differentiating scenario depending on what you're doing and what team you're running. If you do have a team that is able to target her, you can run this. And you just want to be sure you always have the 2 stacks of help to get the full attack buff here. Since if you go into ultimate and you don't have the stacks, you won't get the 48% attack buff, and the performance will drop significantly. So if you do have a team that can target her, Wave Strider is an option. Other than that, you can also run Scholar, with the 2-piece providing 8% crit rate, 4-piece provides 20% skill and ultimate damage, and then using ultimate will make the next skill do an additional 25% damage. Simple and effective, it makes it easier to build, and also just more damage for skill and ultimate, which are the main focuses of damage through assist skills and the ultimate. And using your ultimate, the next time you would proc a skill, in this case, assist skill would get a bigger buff. While it's not going to be a frequent part to get the second part, you just kind of have that there anytime it does go on. It is just buffing the main sources of damage, so this is worse than both Navigator especially, and also worse than Wave Strider, but it is a nice, simple, and efficient option to farm, and it's also usable. The last option I want to talk about is the Genius set. 2-piece is useless, but the 4-piece provides 10% defense ignore when the wearer does damage to a target enemy, And if they have Quantum Weakness, an additional 20% defense ignore. The reason I want to mention this is because there are a lot of ways that this can be better than the other sets. It's usually always going to be worse than Navigator. However, at very high defense shred / ignore at around maybe 90%, it can almost be just as good as Navigator. But I mention this iffy because there are a lot of teammates of Himeko's that give it defense ignore depending on investment, or their base kits such as Welt and Mortanix can give defense shred. So if you have them and maybe you have a combination of Himeko's Lightcone, as I mentioned, the Eidolon dupes in something like Sunday or Sparkle, you can end up overcapping very easily. That's why it's generally not recommended to do this, as it's very easy to overcap, especially with just S1 Himeko plus some of her best teammates. But on some teams, you might not always have the investment or the right team. Like for an example, running S1 Himeko with Mortanix plus Welt, that's over 100% defense shred / ignore being at 102. So Genius Set would do absolutely nothing. But if you're running a team of maybe a combination of that, let's say Himeko plus Welt, and then you're running Sparkle, Himeko plus Welt, you would have around 72% defense shred / ignore. However, Sparkle is not really giving you anything there if you don't have her E2. So in this case, the 20% you are able to get here is good. If they don't have Quantum Weakness, it's going to perform worse. However, in the full case where they have Quantum Weakness and you do also get enough shred / ignore for it to matter, again, roughly around 90%, then it's very comparable to Navigator. However, there are so many scenarios for it to not really be that good. So in this case, you really just want to focus on 4-piece Navigator. If you need a 2-piece in the meantime, you can run 2-piece attack with 2-piece crit. So attack sets are 2-piece Navigator, you can do 2-piece Hero, when Soaring, Prisoner, or Musketeer. If you need crit rate, you can do 2-piece Scholar or 2-piece World or Making. If you need crit damage, 2-piece Wave Strider or 2-piece Everglorious. Or you can combine any of those with 2-piece Firesmith for the fire damage it does provide. But yeah, as I mentioned, really just get 4-piece Navigator. It's going to do you the best results and the most consistent result. For Planar Ornaments, the best one and really the only one you want to use is the Fallen Star, providing 8% crit rate, and when entering combat, if the wearer and another teammate both are Trailblaze companion characters, the wearer's crit damage will increase by 32%. 8% crit rate and 32% crit damage practically for free just using her as normal is really, really good. Makes her easier to build and also increases her other form of damage, being crit damage. So anytime you crit, you just do more damage. And this is always going to be active, as you always practically just need to have someone else that is Trailblaze Companion. Otherwise, you can't activate her modes. So just by running her normal, you get a free 32% crit damage on top of 8% crit rate. So this is really the only one you want to use. However, if you do have Permanence of Terrae Dawning on the team, you can use Banana Amusement with 16% crit damage, and a target being summoned by the wearer is on the field, an additional 32% crit damage, a total of 48% crit damage. So if you don't really need the crit rate of Fallen Star and you're running Dawning on the team, this set would outperform, as it is just more crit damage, but it does strictly require you to run Permanence of Terrae Dawning. The mech that Himeko does have is not considered a summon, so don't run this on her thinking that will activate it. You do, in fact, need Permanence of Terrae Dawning to activate the effect, otherwise it won't work. So if you have him on the team, you can use this and it can outperform, but that's really it. And if you need a set in the meantime while you're farming the new set, then you can also use Rudolin if you don't have the Banana Amusement, or you're not using her with Dawning, because Rudolin also does work, with 8% crit rate and 20% damage increase for basic attack and skill. Skill being the primary focus with assist skills and stuff, that's why it also does work. You can also technically use Salsado because it is the same thing, but instead for ultimate damage. But since assist skills go throughout the battle a lot, I know most of the damage is packed within the ultimate to see the most, but assist skills do add up a lot. So you can use Salsado if you want to focus on the ultimate more, or you can use Rudolin Arena, which I do say would perform somewhat better if you want to focus on the assist skills and such. For the main sets on the relics, for the body, you want to primarily run crit rate to reach 100%. For the feet, primarily run attack percent. The only case you'd want to run speed is if you are running Sunday for a -1 setup, which isn't going to be super common, so mostly attack percent. For the orb, attack percent is somewhat better. However, if you have a really good fire orb, feel free to use that. Since damage percent is given a bunch in the verdict state, that's where attack percent does outperform a little more as opposed to decimation, where it does become equal. Overall, just getting attack percent is going to be a lot easier. And for the link rope, primarily you want to run attack percent as well. However, if in your runs energy region rope does net you an extra ultimate, it can be the one to outperform, so you would want to test that out, as a lot of variables do come into play when it comes to doing that. For the substats, if you are doing a -1, you want to get Himeko speed above 1 as opposed to your Sunday. So if your Sunday is at, let's say, 138 speed, you'd want to get your Himeko Nova to about 139. If you're not running Sunday for that thing and you're not doing speed boots, then ignore that step entirely. Then you just focus crit rate, crit damage, and attack percent. Crit rate, you want to get it at 100%, as that is going to be the most optimal performance for any main DPS. You don't want to miss crits on her, so getting 100% is going to be your first priority, and there is a lot of crit damage sources anyways. Crit damage and attack percent, ideally you also get it as high as you possibly can. Getting around 130 to 140% crit damage alone is going to be good. If you can push that up higher, that's going to be better. Attack wise, you are aiming generally around 4200, and as per usual, same as crit damage. If you can aim for higher amounts, such as around 4500, that can also be even better. That also does depend if you're running the fire orb or not, if you're doing the attack orb, energy regen rope or not, speed boots or not, that depends. If you are assuming doing attack boots, attack orb, and attack link rope, in that case you're aiming closer to the around 4500. But if you also just have around 42 to 4300, that's still going to be good. Just aim as high as you possibly can go while balancing your crit rate and also crit damage. Now for some team building options for Himeko Nova, I don't have Himeko Nova on my account, so pretend Himeko regular one is going to be Himeko Nova here. So teams can depend on if you're running Verdict or Decimation and which one you want to focus. As I mentioned when we were going over a kit, I did mention who actually is Verdict giving and Decimation giving. So Decimation teams can usually always, of course, want one person to activate Decimation, and usually that's always going to be Welt, as he is by far currently the best option you can use. Even if you don't have E4 Welt, he's still the best Decimation activator, so you could run him there. Then another slot that's really good, usually always, even at E0 or E2. Mortanix is really good in the spot, and you can also very much run Sparkle. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and put Mortanix Blade, as it's going to be common, and last slot would go to your Sustain. However, Himeko Nova is very Sustainless coded, so you can very much put another buffer here. This can also be the reason you're able to enable a bunch of mixed state teams, such as putting RMC there for the Verdict state, as RMC is very good with Himeko Nova. But in this case, if you already have Mortanix there, you can also just put Sparkle there, as I mentioned, as a good teammate. You can have Sunday there as well, who also would be able to activate Verdict, so another little bit of a mix there. And if you do have E2 Himeko, Cerebra is actually a really good option to run, so that can also be something you do. And if you are running Sustains, Permanent Dawning is going to be the best companion one, as he's also able to enable Verdict. However, Full Flow's buff and energy is very useful, so you can flip-flop between one of these two for Sustain. I did mention this was going to be for Decimation, but we kind of went through a mix of that. Like, as I mentioned, the Decimation teams are always going to contain Welt, so any mixed teams would have that. So if you're doing that and you put RMC and then you have like Mortanix, or if you have Sparkle, in this case you would still have both to activate it. But Sustain teams often can choose one or the other, so I'm just going to use this as an example. This would be purely for Decimation. As well, on something like this would be the only one to give you the buff. Full-on Verdict teams are also more possible, since there are just more viable teammates giving Verdict. RMC is a fantastic one, as I did mention. Then you can also, in this case, have someone like Sunday, because Sunday does work well, so Sunday could go there as well. You would just need to tune this specifically to be to where if you didn't accidentally action advance with Sunday and then RMC's mem action advance procs right away, because that would just be pretty much a waste. So you'd have to be careful with that. And then last slot, Sustain, as I mentioned, you can use Permanent Dawning or Wolfo in this instance. So Verdict teammates are very good in that sense. And even on Verdict, if you are running E2, Cerebra, very good to run there. And also another E2 comp you can do is Sunday plus Sparkle. This also does technically work at E0, but it is a lot better at E2. So this would be an option. And then Sunday is there to give you Verdict. And then if you also want to flip-flop between Decimation, you can put Welt as a Sustainless slot, and that's kind of your only option. If you want to Sustain, it remains one or the other between Permanent or Wolfo. And that is a full Himeko Nova guide. I do hope you found this video helpful. If you did, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new to the channel or haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all the tips and style content. Be sure to once again check out the U-Green and Honkai Star Rail collab for the Yao Guang charging set. The links are in the description and pinned comment, and I'll see you later. Peace out.